Welcome back to She Decides, where we're all about empowering women, helping them take control of their choices, their businesses, and their futures. My name is Staci Swiderski, host of She Decides, and today we're talking about financial confidence. We are diving into a topic that so many women entrepreneurs struggle with, money. But today's guest, Jessica Kleine, is here to help us shift our perspective. As the owner of Mindset Financial Coaching, Jessica provides bookkeeping, budgeting, and money coaching services designed specifically for women business owners. With a passion for numbers and a talent for creative problem solving, Jessica helps her clients gain clarity and confidence in their finances without judgment. Beyond the spreadsheets, Jessica is committed to money mindset work, helping women uncover the why behind their financial habits and challenges. Her mission is to empower women to transform their relationship with money and build the businesses and lives of their dreams. I'm super excited for this conversation, so welcome to the show, Jessica. Well, thank you, and welcome to our She Decides podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So, everybody, this is Jessica Kleine, and she is the owner of Mindset Financial Coaching, which I'm so excited to talk to you about today, because you really empower women with financial just everything. I mean, you do as far as like their books, their coaching, just their business plans. So please, like, I'm going to give you the mic here and just share with us what you do. And then I have so many questions for you. I can't wait to get started.
Good. I have all the answers.
You will.
Yes, I own Mindset Financial Coaching. It's been in business for about 5 years. It started out as a way to help women get their families out of debt. That was kind of how I got started. And it has morphed and evolved as businesses do in a lot of different directions. So for the most part, I do a lot of bookkeeping for small businesses because small business entrepreneurial women are actually my passion. So I do business bookkeeping, I do budget consulting, I do cash flow planning, and I do a lot of the money and money mindset coaching. That's, I'm good at numbers, but the mindset stuff is, that's like the passion project.
And so is that something that just comes to you? So as you're going through books and the financials, the data, all that, do you just automatically have an idea? You're like, you know what? I think this would be a better idea to do this. Like, is it more on the business side or just strictly financials? Or is it kind of interweave?
It's a little bit of everything. It's actually more on the personal, like the person side as opposed to the business side.
Okay.
My bookkeeping, I think of it as like, that's like the gate to get people in the door, because businesses, you need your books covered and all of that. And women in particular, they have a lot of stories, a lot of issues, a lot of stuff around their money. And so that's one way that I can help them be calmer, because if they're worried about their finances in their business and they're worried about their books and they're worried about all of these things, on one hand, they're either not paying attention to it at all, which is not helpful, or they're obsessing over it, which is also not helpful. And both of those they're gonna turn off their creativity. So then they can't step into who they can actually be because they're too worried about this stuff that's not even, like, it's not their zone of genius.
I love this. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, this is the first time I've ever heard of something that is so, it's like personal too.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's like coaching, literally. It's wow, it's just amazing. Obviously, like books and accounting, and I have a bookkeeper, I have an accountant and all that, but this is like a whole new, for me anyways, like, wow, it's just like mentorship.
Yeah.
Really.
And it's funny, I kind of fell into this, I don't want to say by accident, but kind of. It wasn't my goal plan. It wasn't my career path.
Because you said it's been 5 years now.
Yeah, I've been in business. I've been in this business for 5 years. I don't have an accounting background or anything like that, but I'm very good with numbers. I'm not a math person, which is a lot of women. They assume, well, I don't do math, so I can't do money. I'm like, no, money has nothing to do with the numbers.
I'm very on that one because I'm horrible.
Yeah, see? Yes. But money, there's so much more to it than just the numbers that are on a spreadsheet. So by me helping with the bookkeeping and the budgeting, I am helping them on a practical side with the stuff that they need, because everybody has to deal with money. You have to figure it out. But it's the behind the scenes and, okay, what's really going on and how are you feeling about this? Then I get to know the person more, and that's where it opens up the door to see, like, okay, you're holding yourself back. Here's how I can tell. And kind of go with that.
And so, and I have so many questions for you. And I even have questions here written down ready, but I haven't even, we're not even getting into these yet, just from the conversation here. I love this. So when you are working with your clients, are they all, for one, are they all women, 100% of them, or primarily women?
My bookkeeping is kind of 50-50.
Okay.
I have half men, half women, because I can help all businesses. So
Sure.
that's kind of how that is. But once it gets into the coaching aspect, it's women, because women think and feel very, very differently than men about money. So they react differently. They have different kind of stories, different kind of dreams and goals and hopes, and a ton of baggage that a lot of men have.
We sometimes overthink a little bit, don't we?
We overthink all the time.
And like 20 years ahead.
Yes. We don't know how to just be and just be in the moment and be okay with where we are.
Yes.
Because we're worried about what we did or what we're going to do.
Yes, what we can do better and what we can do different. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so are the women that you work with, are they primarily, and on the business side, are they all business owners, or is it just they're kind of maybe the breadwinners in their family, or maybe they are not, and they're the ones who tend to the financial. So but tell me more about that.
A little bit of everything.
Okay.
When I first got started, my plan was to work only with business owners and moms. Like, I had a heart for, moms who were trying to start businesses and all of that kind of stuff. And it turned out that most of my coaching clients were all single women who are career women. And it was fascinating to me because none of my marketing said that way. So I was really curious how that happened. And they also were not business owners. So it was just an interesting way to see how all women they all have the same issues, no matter if you're making, you have a multi-six-figure career job, or you're trying to build a business and you're lucky if you can scrub, two pennies together. So that's how it started, and it kind of has morphed, and now I have a little bit of a mix. My coaching clients range from just, as I said, single women with careers, and I do have business owners. It just kind of depends on where they are and when I tend to show up in their lives when they need it, but they're not looking for it, which is kind of fascinating.
Oh, that is so fascinating. And, with that, with your coaching, how often, do you have different packages, or how often do you communicate with them and stay in touch with them?
It's usually every other week.
Oh,
most of my packages
are very frequent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you really stay on top of it.
I do, because my coaching clients are, I don't want to say they're friends, but they are, because money is a very sensitive topic, and it's one that everybody tries to hide, especially women.
It's very personal.
We don't want to talk about it. We're afraid we're the only ones having problems.
Don't want to
be
judged.
Better than this. Yeah. Correct. They assume they should know how to do money, but I tell them, I'm like, well, did you take a foreign language in high school? Because unless somebody was speaking Spanish from the time you were little, you don't know how to speak Spanish until you learn.
That's right.
Money is the same thing. It's just another language that you can be taught.
Yes.
So yeah, it's just been interesting to see who kind of appears in my life and when.
I love it. And so doing this now for 5 years, are you seeing the growth happening?
I have. I am a very, like tortoise in the hare, very slow and steady.
Yes.
Kind of growth.
Yes.
My business was planning. When I first.
But that's a good thing.
It is.
That's a good thing.
It didn't feel like it for the first few years when I'm seeing all these other, the coaching industry exploded, and I felt like I missed it. But at the same time, while I was building my coaching practice, this bookkeeping on the side kind of fell into my lap, and I started doing that, and that has turned into like the foundational piece to help with the ups and downs that a lot of coaches experience, because it has felt a little feast and famine here and there, which, small businesses, that's just the nature of it.
Right.
But
it's consistency, right?
It is, and it has grown every year
that
I've had it. So,
and it's your passion. Like, you love it.
It is, and it's so funny because I wouldn't have thought that. Like, I've always had an interest in money. The reason I got into money coaching, a couple of reasons. One of the main reasons is because my life is like ideal. I have an awesome life, and the one area I've always struggled is money. So kind of like a lot of people say, the thing that you need the most is what you end up teaching, because that's how you learn it the best.
That's right. And self-taught sometimes,
correct.
Right?
Yep, absolutely.
That's right. And sometimes too, when people are kind of stuck, like, what do I really want to do? Or, and sometimes like just see if you do something you really think you like, and you're going to know really quick if you can make money doing it, right? And if you're good at it.
Yep.
So like usually you find that pretty quickly. And
Well, and it's funny because I fought against it for a while. Like, I got into financial coaching. I didn't like the word finance because women don't tend to like that word. So
okay.
Money coaching.
Yes. Yeah.
I got into that, and the bookkeeping kind of started on the side. But when people would ask me what I do, I'm a stay-at-home homeschooling mom. Like it took a long time. I mean, 5 years doesn't sound like a long time, but I'm just getting to that
Oh,
point.
it's a long time when you're in the middle of it. I mean, now you can look back like, oh wow, that went by pretty quick. But really, when you're hammering down and you're doing the work, it's not quick.
No,
it's a lot of work.
It really is.
It's a lot of work. So that was one of the questions I have for you. Aside from your business and all that, but let's talk about your personal life, and because that's what we really love to shine as well on this and motivate women who want to whether they're building a business or they are leaders in their field and share with others like how do you do it all. And I think it's important to give that hope to the women.
So one of the things I've learned over the years, so I have a business. I homeschool my kids. Well, one graduated, so I have one.
And how many do you have?
I have 2 kids.
Boys, girls?
2 girls, 14 and 18. So my 18-year-old is graduated.
Okay.
My 14-year-old was.
So you were doing this in the midst of those teen years.
Oh yeah. It's been a ride. So between homeschooling, I've been home for 18. I haven't had a job in 18 years. When my first one came along, we struggled with infertility and all sorts of issues. So when she was born, I was like, I want to be home.
Right.
So my husband has oftentimes had 2 or 3 jobs that he's working to make sure I could still be home and homeschool and all that. So yeah, the word balance is not one that has really worked in my life.
Well, I don't think it's like it's like to be an entrepreneur, to balance doesn't really, it's kind of zigzag.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
That's where the end of success, that's zigzagging.
And that's where I learned, like, I had to be adaptable and I had to be flexible. And I used to beat myself up a lot that I couldn't figure out how to fit it all in my days.
Also a perfectionist?
Oh, yeah. Very, very much so. Still am. But I've gotten better. But learning that it's like a puzzle, that you just have to find the pieces, and sometimes pieces fit, sometimes they don't, but it's just a season. Like there's going to be times where your business will be up in front, like tax season for me right now. Like there's a lot of work going on. Archery, I'm a competitive archer, so there's archery tournaments coming up in the next month. So that's a higher priority than like, I don't know, cleaning my house.
But see, that's cool too, that you still do the fun things that really, keep you just inspired, like archery. Like that's something, it's okay to have time for yourself too.
Correct. And that's something I learned very early on. I have very strong boundaries on
Boundaries are important.
My free time, especially. Like I work no more than 20 hours a week. That's has always been my goal. So while my income isn't like this huge, but I work part-time.
Right.
I work on my schedule when I want to work. I don't have regular hours, and it works for me.
And that is success within itself.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not always a financial dollar that you have to be making 7-8 figures. It is what works for your life, and you're crushing it. And you know that if you want to scale, you will, and you can. But right now it's at your pace, and that's impressive.
Well, and that's something that I have always been, until again recently, very black and white thinking, very all or nothing, very either or. And I've been embracing the both and the and I can do all these things, but maybe not at the speed that I want right now. Like I had like 15 different examples just pop in my head all at once.
We got all day.
I had like a leadership position last year for a networking group, and I realized I had taken on too much last year, so I had to step down from that. Not because I couldn't handle it, but because I was choosing. I still have my youngest daughter. She's starting high school, so my priorities were having to shift. Now that doesn't mean in 4 years when she's done that I can't load all this stuff back up on my plate. Right. But I have had to learn and be very clear about what's important to me, and then be very firm on making sure I stick with that.
And like you said, boundaries and prioritizing, right, and ensuring that your day is really, it's lined up how you want to.
Correct.
And that's, really the podcast She Decides, and it's, it's our rules. And I think it's so important that women know that this does exist.
It does.
And balance exists.
You can create, it's been fascinating. When you can look backwards over 20, 30 years and you can see finally how all the pieces fell into place to get you where you are.
Yeah.
But you don't see it before. You don't see it until after. And, there's been times where I kind of sit and I look around and, I don't have the house that I always, it's, we have a great yard and parts of life don't look like how I thought they would, but it's so much better because I have the time freedom that I want. I am home with my kids. I have not missed anything for my kids in their entire lives.
I love that. And you know too, like financially, if you need or you want or whatever to pick it up, you can do that probably like that.
Yeah.
Because you know your process. It's your company. You built it.
Yeah.
That is so amazing. I love it. I love it. So I'm gonna get into some good questions here.
Okay.
And I think they're gonna be really helpful for anybody who's listening to our podcast. So you really kind of already answered this, but let's ask it again in a little, because I think it's really important, is can you share a pivotal decision in your personal life that had a significant impact on your professional journey? And I know you had mentioned you have the girls and and this just kind of worked its way into it, but is there anything that you can think of as you're like, this is an aha moment, I really want to do this, like in your personal life that really, you had mentioned like you didn't go to school for accounting.
No, my background is in law. So growing up, I was very much the ambitious kid. Like I was an artist when I was little. But then I was a smart kid, so I was on the smart kid path. And I was very ambitious. I was going to be the career person. I was going to have that.
So your mind didn't stop.
Yes, very much. What can I do bigger, better type thing.
More of, yeah.
Yes. Then I met my husband in college. And when we got to the point where we started talking about kids, like I was raised by a stay-at-home mom. My grandma was a stay-at-home mom. I had no interest in being a stay-at-home mom.
I was going to ask you that because you had mentioned homeschooling your daughters.
Yeah. Okay. I came from, I wasn't homeschooled, but like I came from a stay-at-home mom house, and I was going to be the career person instead. Like
so you did the opposite.
Correct.
Okay.
And then it's funny how things happen. When we struggled with getting pregnant and all that, I remember having a moment where when you're, kind of talking like, okay, if you could just make this happen, I promise I'll do this.
Sure.
And there was, if we could just get pregnant, I don't want to miss any of it.
Right.
So that was a pivotal thing for me, because all of a sudden my priorities like flipped upside down, and I decided like I want to stay home. And my husband, he questioned me because he's like, are you sure? Because he knew.
He's like, wait a second. I remember when before this, like you were going to be out of the house, like taking a train down to Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was my plan.
That was the career. Yes,
yeah. And we had a talk because he's like, you're going to go crazy. And it didn't take long for me to realize I couldn't just do that. Not that there's anything wrong with that or anything like that, but I knew I needed to do something else. So from the time I did stay home until, the time this business was born, I did a million different things. Started lots of businesses. I was a real estate appraiser for a short time, and then the bubble and everything, and then I wasn't anymore. So that moment of I want to stay home kind of opened the door to learning more about entrepreneurship. It took a long time for me to get it to work. Both my parents, my dad was a real estate appraiser, and he had his own business. So he was a contractor and all that kind of stuff. My mom did direct sales and stuff on and off when I was a kid. So I did a lot of those same types of things.
Sure.
And learned the other way to live, that I didn't have to have a job. And once that kind of clicked, it opened the doors.
And then you're like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
And that's usually, I think, when the doors open, is sometimes when you're least expecting it, or when you're like, okay, like, there's something else out there that I want to do.
Absolutely. I told my husband, I'm like, I'm feral now. I can't go back. Like, I can't.
This is it. And it's like, I'm moving forward from here.
Absolutely.
So just hang on tight, honey. Here we go. All right, so this actually is a good segue into the other question I had for you, and I think this is really important too, that women really, because there's a lot of guilt as working moms, right? So it was building a career. Obviously, it comes with sacrifice. We all know that, right? What's one personal sacrifice that you have made that you feel has helped you achieve the success that you have today? What's a sacrifice do you feel? Even though it sounds like everything's worked out just kind of like how you wanted it, but there's got to be one sacrifice.
There is.
Maybe less homemade dinners, or what is it? It sounds like you do a lot of everything.
Not a cook. It's funny. My husband's better wife than I am. That's what I tell him all the time.
I would.
Yeah. See. So at the risk of sounding either out of touch or, I'm just gonna go with it. We sacrificed a lot. We don't eat out, didn't get new cars, don't have a huge house, didn't take many vacations, single income house.
Sure.
There's a lot of sacrifices there. So by starting my business, there wasn't really that kind of sacrifice we had to worry about.
Mhm.
But at the time when I started my business, a few years before then, we had paid off all of our debt. That was a big,
I mean, that's a huge accomplishment
correct,
just in itself.
Well, and then doing that with a single income, like it was a big, we sacrificed
and
a
raising
lot.
a family, and that is.
It was a big accomplishment.
Yeah.
And I remember the day that we did it, I was like, okay, we did it. And I was like, where's the singing? Like, you know, it was a very kind of a letdown.
It's like, I was like, yeah, you want, it's like a graduation or something.
You want a celebration, and we got nothing. But that's kind of how the business all started. But anyway, so I was debt free, and I put a lot behind that label. When I started my business, I started investing in myself. I had to open up a credit card. You know, the thing, we didn't have any extra resources for me to jump into things, and there's stuff I needed to learn, and I took on coaching right away. You know, I was getting coached right away.
Sure.
So the debt-free kind of went away. And that was really, and again, that sounds, I don't know how it sounds, but like as a money coach, that was a huge hit to my own confidence and my own struggles that kind of popped up in my own mindset about it and what I thought about that. And it's still a journey to kind
Were
of.
you thinking, oh man, am I kind of contradicting this?
Correct.
Yeah.
There's a lot of imposter syndrome that pops up then. And again, I started my business to help families get debt free, and well, now I'm racking up the debt all over again.
But I think it's definitely a different approach though when you are investing in yourself.
Correct. And that's one of the shifts I had to make.
Sometimes you got to spend money to make money.
Correct.
Right?
And it's not even like I had to change how I thought to where, number one, debt isn't bad. Like depending on who you listen to, there's gurus out there that I used to follow, and then I was like, I think my mindset got screwed up by following this particular person because there's a lot of fear, a lot of scarcity, a lot of stuff that goes into that. And then realizing investing in myself is different. Investing is different than just spending money.
It's and I don't really consider that debt.
Correct.
I mean, I really don't, because look where you are now,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, if there's billionaires out there that all the time, you know, they take loans all over.
Absolutely.
And they're like, oh, use other people's money.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how they're making their money.
Correct.
Yes.
And that's something, again, we're not taught. We're just taught debt is bad.
Yeah.
It's
right.
You can't do anything fun until it's gone.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. You cannot push that marker until you cross this off. Yeah. So, and I'm sure a lot of this, you know, this personal, you know, growth for you is what you really are. It comes into your coaching. Oh, I'm sure. So it's, you know, it's like, don't feel guilty for doing this, or, you know,
mm-hmm. You have to, and that's part of it. Like you have to do what feels good to a point, you know, like I'm a firm believer in the energy of money and like the frequency. And it's funny because people are like, wait, don't you do numbers? Aren't you a bookkeeper? And you do, but yes, but also, and I do this part too. And there's a lot to it of how you think and how you feel and the stories you tell yourselves. And if you're constantly coming at money from a fear, that was one of the clicks for me. I had a coach at one point.
And especially as a business owner.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's the worst, you know, if you're thinking, oh my goodness, you get, it's very scary because you can't pay the bills.
Correct. But coming at it from the fear doesn't help. Like,
no,
it's normal. Everybody has it, but also you have to get beyond it and you have to make the decisions based on it working.
Right. And really try to look at it in an optimistic way as much as possible. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's incredible. I mean, to have that outlook, you know, for somebody to be able to have a coach and to, like I said, it's like a mentor session. Mm-hmm. Really, it's like you're a counselor. You probably know so much about people's personal life.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure.
Yes,
like you got to sign this confidentiality agreement.
Big part of it, but yeah, and it is because people will come to me with things that are money related, but you pull the strings.
Yeah.
Okay, but what is it really?
Right.
It's this relationship with your brother. Like, it's fascinating to see, but money touches everything. Like, every single part of your life, whether you think it or not. So, of course, it's going to reflect what's going on in other areas of your life.
It's so true. And, you know, a lot of, like you said, money is such an intimate topic, too, you know, and there's always, whatever way you want to look at money, right? You're like, oh, you know, marry somebody with money, your life will be better. Or money this or money that. And if you have money, money buys you happiness. And, you know, I think that at the end of the day, like being financially stable, I think it provides freedom.
Yeah.
And I think,
choices.
Yes, it gives you choices and freedom and flexibility in your life. And it's not a bad word.
No,
like,
it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
You have to can't survive in the world without it in
No.
some way.
Right.
And it's when you're worried about it and thinking about it and obsessing about it is when the problems are. The people who are more relaxed and successful, like they're not worried about it because not on the outside.
Sure.
Because they know that they're taken care of. They know they have the cushion to fall back on. And
right. It's peace of mind.
Yeah.
It's so peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you find your clients?
Honestly, most of them have been referrals and word of mouth. I get a lot of that. I have.
So I'm going to have to guess that you probably, like the marketing budget, you probably don't have to spend a lot on. I mean, especially now with like social media and all of that.
Yeah, social media is where most of my people are, or I assume.
Yeah.
And again, because I work limited hours, I've kept caps on who I work with and when I work with them and all of that, which has made it to where I'm not out knocking on doors.
Sure.
Right. I know people, again, it's the mindset stuff. I know people will come to me when it's time for them to come to me. And yeah, I've had a couple people Google things and they found me that way, which blows my mind.
Right.
Like, really?
Yeah.
What did you Google?
Well, I'll tell you, that's how we found you.
Oh,
and we were so happy because, being local, and I was so inspired by, just your advocacy for, women and really coaching them. And I mean, that's the love of my life, is really inspiring and advocating for women, empowerment, and especially in business. Because I feel that even though, yes, we've come a long way, we got a long way to go.
Yeah.
So just, seeing what you do, it's just, it's amazing. It's so amazing. So, okay. So I have a few more questions for you. You kind of answered this one as well, but I think we can extend on it because I think it's important. So what was one of the most difficult personal challenges you faced, and how did you navigate through it while managing your career? And I know you had mentioned, really about becoming debt-free and all of that, but what about in your career? Like, not so much like your personal life, but in your career, like, what do you feel has been a challenge? Like, how do you navigate through that? And it sounds like you've got it pretty under control because you're controlling your time and your hours and all that.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm like, well, there's definitely been ups and downs, but not enough downs to where I've been like, I'm quitting,
Right.
I know, and I've known this is going to work. It might take a little while for me to get there, to get wherever there is.
Sure. So with that, when did you know in these 5 years that you had an aha moment? You're like, okay, this is happening. And this is a business that I literally created from scratch, and here I am. And this is like my profession, and this is awesome.
Yeah. I had one of my coach friends, we were talking about something one time. We talked about the statistics of new businesses that have gone under and how many people actually make it past 3 years, 5 years. Because there's a lot of women that when I got started, there was groups of us and we would all get together and we would chit chat, and most of them aren't around anymore.
And doing the same thing.
Correct.
Okay.
They went back and got quote unquote real jobs and all of that.
A secure paycheck. Yeah.
So there's very few of the original women that I can kind of met that have done this. And she was talking to me because I was probably down on something.
Sure.
She's a coach friend, so we help each other out.
You need that. The support.
And she had me go back and look and count how many months I had income, just for something like that, or how long. I can't remember what it was, but she had me add up all the money I've made from the beginning. And when I added up the number, I was like, huh. Okay then,
like,
it was.
This is happening.
It is
it
is a real business. It's not $1 million business, but I wasn't looking for that when I started.
Right.
Will it be eventually? Absolutely.
Yeah,
No doubt.
Hands down. I have no doubt in that.
Right. But it took when we're in the day to day, we get so focused on this one little thing and what's working and what's not that we forget to get the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can take a step back and see that bigger picture, you can see the trajectory isn't this crazy up and down like you think. It's all upward. There's ups and downs on it, but it's still going up.
Ultimately, yes.
Correct.
It's rising.
So when I got to that point where I added up the numbers and I was like, I'm already past 50%, 70%, whatever the number is of businesses that close down in their first 5 years. I'm like, I've already surpassed all that.
Right. And I would have to guess too, the challenge for you is, because you are busy doing it, is really sticking to those boundaries, because there's a need for this.
There is.
And when the time is right, you're going to take full advantage of that. I'm going to guess.
Absolutely.
Just by talking to you, I can tell you're extremely motivated here.
Yeah,
so
and I've been very, I haven't done a ton of marketing. I haven't done a ton of stuff. Part of it was fear for a long time, because I was like, do I really want held myself back without realizing it because I didn't want it to explode, because I'm homeschooling my kids. My priorities are at home, you
Right.
know? So yes, I held myself back, and also that's okay.
That's okay. That's a-okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I said, that's success just in itself.
Right.
I mean, that's amazing. So what other advice, and I'm reading this off of here, because I definitely want to make sure, some of these I've skipped because it's just, you're answering.
Because you can do whatever you want.
Yes, I love it. Like I said, this is super casual, but this one I think is really important. Is what advice would you give to other women on overcoming self-doubt and stepping into leadership roles with confidence? And I think what's really cool is that, as I'm reading you some of these questions that I jotted down that I wanted to make sure I asked you, like, our conversation is so flowing into each one of these. And I'm just shuffling here, and I'm just like, this is pretty cool. So, because it was just kind of what we were talking about.
Yep.
So what advice would you give to other women who, like you said, you went and you talked to somebody and you were like, oh, I don't know. And she's like, well, add it up. And you're like, you're right. So what would you think? And not so much in your business, but just in life, like starting a business or maybe they're already in a leadership role and they're struggling with family balance, boundaries, all that. What advice would you give?
So on the self-doubt side, I would say to not try to overcome it, because I don't think it ever goes away. I have a lot of successful women in my life. Yeah, and you would never know looking at them that they have doubts, but I know them behind the scenes. And they all still question themselves. They question their values sometimes. They question their decisions. The self-doubt doesn't go away. You just learn to deal with it and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because that's how you're going to get over it. That's how you're going to get the confidence. Confidence is not being ready to do something. It's doing the thing even though you're not. And the confidence comes.
I'm such a firm believer on that, because that's when you grow. As you step outside of that comfort zone and you impress yourself, and you're like, I didn't think I could do that, and I just did it. And so now I'm ready for the next challenge.
Exactly.
And it's okay to screw up too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's
you're going to.
You're going to. I mean, usually success happens, when you make so many mistakes, and it's that aha moment.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Speaking as a perfectionist, you're gonna mess it up. And if you don't take the action, you're not gonna grow. You're not gonna get the confidence. You're gonna hold yourself back, and you're never gonna start. And you can't do anything if you don't.
You have to start. You just have to start. And it's okay to, like I said, if you screw up or whatever, but people are going to judge you, and who cares?
Yeah.
Like that's I'm a big believer in, like, you surround yourself around the positive people. If it's not the naysayers, if you have friends that are doubting you, or even family, just boundaries, like, no way, like, don't burst my bubble here. Like, I'm trying to do something here.
Yeah. And that's something that I think a lot of us don't realize until we're older. Like, like the filters start going away at 40 is what I kind of have figured out.
Yes.
Because you're so worried about, with homeschooling, I'm so worried about what other people would say. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? And it wasn't until we've been doing it for a while where I was like, doesn't matter, I can do whatever I want, it's my life.
It's your life. They're not paying your bills.
Correct.
They're not,
Same with the business, There's so many right answers out there that you can get very overwhelmed, and you can get very caught up in all these other voices and all these other ideas.
True. Yeah.
Just do it. Do
and
one thing.
Go with your gut.
Yes.
I'm a big believer in go with your gut. Yeah. Put yourself out there and go with your gut.
Absolutely.
What inspired you, or what motivated you to homeschool the girls? And have they been homeschooled since literally kindergarten?
No. So my oldest was in regular school through third grade. We pulled her out in fourth grade, and my youngest, she went to preschool, but she never went to real regular school.
Sure.
There wasn't one specific thing, but I had a moment where I remember thinking the kid I put on the bus in kindergarten is not the same kid who came home in third grade.
Okay.
She was kind of a loner, but like a people pleaser. So I could see in the future, correct, and I didn't want that to happen. They had been making some changes in the school district. There was just a lot going on.
Sure.
She was not bullied. She was very smart, but they're getting rid of the gifted program. There was a lot of little things. And at one point I had mentioned it to my husband, and he works through schools. He's an athletic trainer, so he works at a high school.
Okay.
And he was not a fan of the idea of homeschooling. And I had done some research, and I was looking into it and giving him information. And at one point, he and my daughter, my oldest, were out for a walk. They're very outdoorsy and all that. And he was teaching her about the, tracks they found or leaves or something. And she's like, Daddy, wouldn't wouldn't it be nice if I could just stay home and you guys could teach me everything I need to know? And that was what he needed to hear.
Yeah, he was like, this isn't a
Correct.
bad idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
And by us doing that, like, she is one of the most confident kids you will see. She like flourished. It took a few years of
Sure.
unlearning things. But she did. She has grown into an amazing young woman. My 14-year-old, same thing. She has.
Is your 18-year-old, is she in college or out of school? Is she a senior? Or
She's graduated, but
Okay.
she's still home. She
Okay.
works part-time.
Okay.
We had the college talk, and I was like, I went to college and got a husband, is what I tell people. I don't use my degree, so. And she's like, she wants to be a writer. She's like,
I love that.
She's like, I don't think I need a degree for that. I'm like, nope. I said,
No.
if you decide you want to, great. She's like, I'd rather just save the money. I said, good. I like this plan.
Like, I support you, whatever
Correct.
you decide to do.
Yeah.
Right.
She also has like an entrepreneurial streak, and one of the things that we've been really focused on in my house is we treat our kids as people. Like, they're people with their own ideas and their own goals and all of that.
For sure.
Yes. So we don't homeschool like a school. You know, I started out strict with curriculums and all that, and tossed that out the window pretty quick.
So fill me in on this. Like, homeschooling, can't you do it one or two ways? Where are you literally like you're the teacher, or can you bring in people to homeschool? Is it one or the other type thing? And what do you do?
We have done a little bit of a combination of things. So it varies.
I tell you, I don't know if I could do 6th grade math.
I can't do 6th grade math. And I do bookkeeping for people. It's very, so what I do, I call it, people call it unschooling. I call it life schooling.
Okay.
My oldest was on a more traditional kind of route to where there were some subjects and all that. We're part of co-ops, so the kids take classes at co-ops and things like that. So they are getting the core information. We follow what the state says they need to graduate, but it's also very flexible, you know, as far as what I can, you know. My youngest loves to cook. Okay, that's a lot of math. That's a lot of science. That's a lot of stuff in there.
So you can, correct.
So we can kind of,
it into, nice.
But it's very much an interest-led. What do you want to learn?
Sure.
Even if the topics they pick, and I'm like, I don't even know where that came from, but trying to force them to learn something because you're supposed to learn it.
Right.
It's not. I don't remember anything from in school.
It's like taking prereqs in college. It's like, oh gosh, like I'm never
it's
going
just
to
a waste of
these.
time.
Yes. It's horrible.
Yeah,
But you gotta.
But they can tell you, like, they go deep into subjects that they're passionate
I
about.
love that.
And they will, like, I've learned so much from my kids.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That is so. Now, do they do activities like athletic? With your husband, I was curious if.
Yeah, not athletics in the traditional sense.
Sure.
So my oldest is a competitive archer. She's actually the one that started. So did she did it first and then you? Okay, yes.
Then you.
So my husband is a hunter, so he's had bow and arrow. We've always had bow and arrows and all that stuff, but nothing formal. And she did a park district program when she was, I don't know, 9 or 10. Got invited to the team, and like the rest is history. She's been a captain for a long time. She's very competitive with it. She works at the archery shop.
So don't mess with her.
Yeah.
In a dark field.
Right.
Rambo.
Well, and she's got a forest school certification that she went to Tennessee by herself and wanted to try. She wanted to do it by herself and travel and figure it out. So she's got a lot of different paths. My youngest was avidly against archery for a little while just because everybody was doing it.
She's like, nope, I'm not doing what my sister's doing.
But she's a musician. She plays piano. She plays violin. She wants to learn cello. Is her next on her list.
Now, was she always in lessons? Like, and is this something she just gravitated to too? And because I think music is one of those things.
I love it. Like, I wish she would practice more at home because I just love it. Her brain, she was very good at piano, just hearing it and she can play it. She's one of those kind of kids.
Picks it up and
yes, I have no musical bones in my body.
Me neither.
None. And it's just something that came easy to her. So yes, she was in piano lessons when she was probably 6-ish, maybe. We kind of got her started because she had an interest. I don't know if she'll do anything with it, but again, it's one of those. Okay, that's another. It's almost like a foreign language, you know. And so she's part of a local youth orchestra that they do concerts, and so they meet other kids and they get involved with other things. She's my gamer.
I think that's good. Oh, the gamer, yeah. She's probably going to be a little techie too. Maybe if she's a gamer.
She's one of those. She's got like multiple screens. My husband and I, we watch her, and she has a screen here, headphones on, hands are.
She's like going to town.
She knows exactly what's happening at all the things.
I'm telling you, like these games and this technology these days, it's amazing.
Well, and it's funny because people are like, well, yeah, but what's she going to do when she grows up? I'm like, what she does when she grows up might not even be invented yet.
I was just she may invent it.
Correct.
She may be the one inventing it.
Yeah.
So moving on to a few more questions. If you could go back in time, what is one piece of advice you would give your younger self? And this is, I ask people this all the time.
This one, there's like 8 answers.
And you think about it too, because obviously, like back in the younger day, like it wasn't like it is now. So
Correct.
like, yeah, so it's like we probably do have so many answers. But
I do.
Something that stands out.
Something that has been, I've had to like kind of unlearn. I would tell myself to not lose my identity in all the different seasons of my life. Because when I got to the point where I was stay-at-home homeschool mom, I forgot about the part of me that was the ambitious go-getter, wanting to change the world kind of person.
Sure, yeah.
And it took a long time. I still have moments where like I forget that I can do these other things.
Right.
Again, that either or. I could be a homeschool mom or I could have a successful business.
Right.
So the identity.
And do archery too.
And do archery. And not cook though. We're not going to cook. But it was very much an identity. I was Googling identity crisis like 6 months ago. A teenager, she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I think I'm having a meltdown. This is a midlife crisis. But it is like.
One day you will experience it.
Exactly. And it was just like, there's just been a handful of things over the last couple of years specifically where I've questioned a lot. And the answers have been interesting because they're not what I would have thought, you know? So like not losing yourself, not losing my identity.
Staying really true to yourself.
Correct. Which is really hard to do when you're also mom and you're also wife and you're also a business owner.
Like I said, that sense of guilt, I think.
Yes, it is. I don't think men, I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like they don't have that issue.
I don't think so either. I don't think so either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think women just in general, we juggle so much and it just messes with our emotions a little bit, right? We think we can do a million things, and then one ball drops, and like, oh, it's a failure. Yep. Yes. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, like, how does your husband, speaking of men, how does your husband, like, how much support do you feel he has been? I'm sure he's been amazing, but has he ever once not doubted you, but thought like, I don't know, like, or is he just kind of like, you do your thing and I got you?
For the most part, he's 100% support. Again, I had mentioned earlier, like, I have an ideal life. Like, I have home with the kids, I have a great husband, we have a great relationship, I'm healthy, you know, all the things. He's been very supportive of all the things I've ever wanted to do, even the stupid ones that like, I probably shouldn't have done. There have been moments, especially there's been sometimes during this business in particular where money got really tight and you could see that I was working but not getting a whole lot of traction. There's those moments.
That's entrepreneurship.
And he did. He had, at one point, he told me, he's like, okay, when Charlie, that's my youngest, when she gets out of school, this either has to work or you have to go get a job. He's like, I'm tired. Like he's worked a lot. And he has done lots of sacrificing.
Right. He said he's worked multiple
jobs
to
make sure that we could stay home. So there's been times where I kind of sit on the couch.
And he's thinking, all right, the girls are 14 and 18 now, and maybe you have to go get a job. And he's like, I think I've done mine, but
yeah, and never in a way like it's your turn now.
Right.
He's not that kind of person.
But just to where, like,
he's like, can I just work one job instead of two or three? That would be great.
Right.
You know, so
and I'm sure this is all while you're probably budgeting really well too.
Yeah, I mean, but there's only so many places that it can stretch. So, and we've had up years and we've had down years like everybody else. I've never felt like he's ever doubted me. There's been times where he doubted, like the direction I was going, maybe.
Right.
Like he could see more clearly where I quote unquote should be going versus where I was because I'm really good at chasing shiny things.
Yeah.
We are very.
We're gonna pivot here. We're gonna pivot there. And yes.
So there's definitely been times where I don't want to say ultimatum because it's not ever felt like that, but the moment of this needs to work or you need to do something else.
So how did that? Obviously, here you still are.
Yep.
So was it like after that? Like how long after that did you come through and say we're good?
It was probably pretty quick. I feel like that conversation. I can't remember exactly when it was, but about a year, not even that long. It could have even been 6 months ago. I don't even remember, but it was enough of a pivot to where I started shifting my focus a little bit. Mm-hmm. So my business has these multiple arms to it. And the bookkeeping one, for example, was one that started by accident and I never marketed it. And I kept getting new clients because people liked what I did. So they would send me people.
Right. Referrals are the best.
It was, but it was funny because in my head, I'm like, well, I'm not a bookkeeper. I can't do that. I actually turned people away that wanted to hire me because I was like, oh, I'm not really a bookkeeper, which is fascinating when you think about it. And I had a friend of mine over the summer this past year. She's like, why aren't you talking about that part of the business that's growing by it? She's like, what would happen if you actually like talked about that?
Give that a little bit of attention.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something my husband's been on me for a while. Like, why don't you do more of that? I'm like, oh man, because that's not as fun. Like, that's
I want to do the shiny fun stuff.
Exactly. Like, that's the kind of boring part. But also it's not. Like, after I shifted my head and realized, well, wait, if I'm helping women here, that just leads them then for me to help them there. And at the time I was working with men for bookkeeping. So it was not like I didn't make that connection until relatively recently, even though it's something I've been doing for years.
That is so amazing because, again, it takes sometimes just that one little pivot and it opens the whole door.
Yeah.
And I'm really impressed too, the fact that you stuck to your boundaries, wanting to really keep this at about a part-time job.
Yeah.
And you still made it work because you could have probably easily said, you know what, I'm just going to do it full time and I'm going to sacrifice over here. I'm not going to be able to spend as much time doing this for my family because money's pulling me. Like we said earlier, money really is power, right? So that's really impressive. The fact that you were able to really just navigate that and tweak to where.
I've been working a lot on my systems and my organization and really kind of nailing down, okay, how much time do I actually spend on this, and this? And how many people can I fit to where now I know, like going into this year, everybody does their goals and all that.
Sure.
I know quarter by quarter, I know I can fit this many people. I know I can fit this many people. And again, knowing what that, it's kind of a false feeling because once I get there, I might realize, actually, I can probably fit a few more,
Right.
So yeah, just taking it more seriously, I guess.
Yeah.
Because even though I've been in business for 5 years, for the first probably 3 of it, it was kind of like,
well, that's like entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's just how it goes.
Throwing spaghetti at the wall. Does it
really
stick? Kind of. Did that stick? Not really.
Not really. We're going to pivot and do something else because that wasn't the best idea, but not giving up.
Correct.
And I can imagine too, like to try to plan your weeks, your days, your months, all of that. Each one of your clients, I mean, it's not predictable.
No.
Because they're all in different places, different mindsets, different financials. And so, I mean, even though I'm sure you allow so much time per client, I'm sure though, I mean, just like myself with my company, that you don't shut it off at night.
No.
You just don't. Any type of consulting or, purpose-driven type of, field, you don't shut it off. You can't just clock out.
It's exhausting.
Yes, and you can't shut down. You're laying there and you're in bed and it's just going and going and going. And so I would assume to think too that your clients help you grow. Like, I'm not saying like, obviously as a business, but like yourself personally.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You learn a lot from them, I'm sure, just by knowing them.
Yeah. Well, and I've had to learn different kinds of skills and different kinds of juggling and different kinds of everything based on who the client is and when they're available. And that's helped me kind of tweak my business now too, to where, okay, what do I want it to look like this year? Okay, I need to be more behind the scenes and not have as much client time, for example. Okay, that means fewer coaching clients, but I can do more bookkeeping clients because that's a little bit less. So it's playing the game and figuring out, okay, well, I have a couple extra hours that I know are going to come up. Can I fit a coaching client in there for a short-time program or something like that? And it's just kind of feeling it out and figuring out, okay, what feels good, what feels like too much. Because if I would have had, a bunch of people come right at the beginning, I would have shut down my business.
You would have been so overwhelmed.
Oh, absolutely.
And you wouldn't have had, you would definitely, your boundaries would have been all messed up at that point.
So it is like,
there's only one of you.
Right. And that's the slow and steady, as much as it didn't feel good growing that way. Now looking back, I'm like, oh, so I was expanding slowly to get the capacity, I had to match with what was coming in.
Sure.
And now I'm at a spot where, okay, one of my kids has graduated. Okay, I can expand again. It's this kind of expanding when I know I can. And then if I need to cut back, okay, we kind of turn off the faucet a little bit for now and then turn it back on.
What is the lifespan of your clientele? Like
lifetime.
I
do. I have one coaching client.
Which is a good thing because that means if you stop, that means maybe they've gone out of business. You don't want that to happen.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen. No. So what I've learned, I have a couple of different kinds of programs and different kinds of things I work with people. I have actual budgeting programs, and those were a beginning and an end. And then some people keep me on for longer if they have more things they want to work on.
Sure.
Bookkeeping clients I start with them and then they are like, don't you ever go out of business because what would I do without you? So those tend to be lifers. I do have a coaching client. She calls herself my lifer. We've been working together since almost the beginning. I want to say it's close to 4 years. that we've been meeting.
And is she a business owner?
She is not. She is one of my single, has a job people. She found me through somebody else who was a client of mine.
And so you really can just help her with her.
Oh yeah, she has gone from tens of thousands of dollars in debt, living someplace that was unhealthy. Like, she has shifted everything. She's close to moving across the country to her dream location. Like,
oh my goodness,
there's all sorts of, she's made leaps and bounds of changes.
I love it. So what other clients, like when you're working with your clients, have you seen that just huge improvement from your help? Like that, I mean, that just sounds amazing. It's almost like her, like pulling her out of a place, and now she's like almost living, like you said, her dream location.
Yeah. I've had a couple of people like that. I had a couple. I in the beginning I used to work with couples, and I always laugh because the wives would hire me, but the husbands are the ones that like what I say, and the wives get real mad after a while because there's sometimes a little bit more of the problem than they realize. But I've had a couple of clients, very overwhelmed, very stressed out, under debt, feeling like there's so many issues. One client in particular, she had a dream of moving. She wanted a bigger house. She never thought it would happen. And within like 3 or 4 months of us working together, she realized she was much better than she thought. She could quit her part-time job that wasn't really doing anything. Her husband was more relaxed and bringing in more money in his, and they ended up selling their house and moving. She sent me a message a few months later. I just got the house that I wanted, and I was like, okay,
that's gonna make you feel so good. It's so inspiring.
Yeah. Another one of my clients, same thing. Her and her husband, they were paying things off and doing things, and sometimes it's just the awareness of seeing where you really are, and then knowing the steps to take to get. That's what I teach people. Like, you want to look forward. We don't care what happened in the past.
Right. You can't go backwards.
No.
Right.
So
it's mistakes, but you still can't go backwards.
So it's trying to get them to see their money differently, which is my whole, like, all of my stuff all kind of ties into that. And then they were able to make choices and decisions. They sold their house and they moved to where they plan on retiring, and he retired early. They have their dream location. Yeah, it's just like magical little stories that you hear. And I'm like, people think
it's like a feel good.
Happened to me. Yeah.
It's like a feel good for you
to
know that because they probably wouldn't have been able to do it without your help, And I think too, like you motivating them to stay disciplined. I think that's
a big accountability is a big. Because nobody wants to do it. Like, I don't want to do it.
We all want to go splurge.
Right? And sometimes that's okay. But learning why you want to do it is a big part of it too. Like, you want to splurge because you're having a stressful situation here, or because you're celebrating something. Like, what's the reason behind it? Because you need to kind of make sure you have the right energy behind it.
You're like a money counselor. I mean, literally. Like, because that, I mean, just listening to that is so cool. It's like a whole mental health.
There's a lot. I looked into a lot of different avenues when I got into financial coaching, because there's like money therapists. There's all sorts of stuff like that out there.
There's so much.
A lot of it requires extra school, but I'm like, I like learning on my own. I don't want to have to.
And maybe someday in the future, but right now we're
correct.
Have you ever had a client that you went to visit first time that you had to meet, and they were a little intimidating, and you were just like,
oh yeah.
And again, that's kind of out our comfort zone, right? So that's how
I've had a couple.
How did you deal with that?
I had to pretend. That's that whole like confidence before your confidence.
Yeah.
Because there's a handful of I have been, and I probably still have moments where I get very intimidated by people who are very successful.
Sure. Yeah.
Have lots of money. How can I help them when I'm only here?
Yeah, you're thinking, my gosh, they have millions more than me. Why do they need my help?
Right. And there was a client who was very strong woman, made a lot of money. And
did you find them being like, was it hard for them to be vulnerable? Did they have a pride?
She did a little bit more than some of my others, but she did warm up eventually. Because I think we worked together for a while, but not long enough for me to see, like, okay, what was the root cause for something? Because I think a lot of it is the lack of vulnerability. They're trying to protect themselves from something. So we didn't get to the therapy sessions enough to figure out that. But it's intimidating. It can be intimidating when I was looking at somebody who felt like they were so much more than, but at the same time, they wouldn't be coming to me if they didn't need something from me too, So that was kind of a reminder that I know what I'm talking about. I'm very good at what I do, like I'm worth what I charge, all of the different things that it took a long time for me to be able, like even saying that out loud.
Right, to have that
Watch me
confidence.
go, I can say that out
that's
loud.
Right. I love it. Yes. Like, that's right. I am worth every penny that I charge.
And a lot of my clients, I would say all of them, there's one client I had to fire. But other than that, all of my other clients would probably agree.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And you know, with what you do, there's just like no limit, because you could literally have teams that go out and like you're coaching your team, and you could just branch this out. And
I have
be
plans.
worldwide. I mean, you're like, I got plans, girl. I got
have all
plans.
sorts of plans.
And that was my next question. So where do you envision yourself, say, in 5 years, 2 years, like just in the future? Like, I'm sure just growth within what you're doing, huh?
Yeah, well, I don't see myself actively doing a lot of the stuff myself, you know, forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
But also, I'm never going to be somebody who retires. Like, I can't sit and do nothing. I have to be busy and do things.
Yeah.
Eventually, I see, you know, passive income kind of stuff with courses. I have a course out already, so like, there's lots of avenues where I can see where, you know, we'll have money coming in without a lot of effort from me.
Sure.
But I don't think I'll ever get rid of at least some of the one-on-one stuff.
So you'll be, because like I said, like with what you're doing, my gosh, the sky's the limit. And especially now with technology and just, you know, the mentorship that goes on. I mean, with just business
I'm virtual, so I work with people all across the country.
Yeah.
I haven't done a whole lot of overseas stuff, I don't think. Not that I'm aware of. I have people that, you know, have purchased some of my stuff here and there, but I haven't one-on-one worked with anybody like that. Right. But, you know, and then it's funny because when people, what do you want to do somewhere down the road? Like, I have big plans and stuff that have nothing to do with my business now.
That's awesome.
There are other ways that I'll be bringing
I was going to say,
so.
there's not just, you don't have to just, you know, run one business.
Oh, no, there's always.
You can own multiple businesses.
And there will be. I have lots of ideas.
Well, I have no doubt. I mean, you were such an amazing role model, too, for your daughters and for them to watch mom just soar.
Well, and that was always the goal. Like, I don't want them to have to depend on, I love my husband, and I, for a very long time, have been very dependent on him. And again, we're partners. He knows it. He tells me that all the time. We're partners. But also in this day and age, and, you know, I want my kids to know they can do it themselves. You 100% have everything you need to be able to be successful in whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
You just have to do it. So
that's amazing. Such a role model you are. Again, that's what we're here for, is just to be role models for all the ladies out there who want to, you know, be independent and, you know, just do whatever they want to do. You know, whether they are starting a company or they are the big boss at their company and they're a leader already or whatever it is. But just, I love how you really focused on the boundaries, because I think that is our biggest hang up as women, are those, we always feel guilty. And then there's like little time for ourselves, sometimes no time.
Yep.
And then if we're just drained, how can we?
You can't pour from an empty cup.
That's right. I was going to say that, but I'm like, all right.
We'll add the cliches in there too.
Yeah, we have to add those in there. So, you know, again, I'm so grateful for you to come in and just, oh gosh, share with what you do. It's such a slice of motivation. And in your bio, there'll be your contact information, so that'll be in there. Not that you are currently taking new clients, but you may, right?
Yep. Actually, this is my year. I'm expanding a little bit this year.
I love it. I love it. So definitely, you know, if you don't mind sharing how could people get a hold of you? Website, phone number, email, what's the best way?
Website is where you can find information about me. I'm on Facebook all the time, as much as I despise social media. Facebook,
but you got to embrace that social media.
I know. My Facebook profile, actually, because I have the business pages and the Insta, but those, I don't check those as much. My profile is like my life. So if you really want to get in touch with me, send me a message on Facebook. That is the best way, because it's more personal then. Like, that's where you see me and my family and my archery.
Right. I check my messages on there. What is your Facebook? Is it your name?
Yeah, it's Jessica Kleine 02. It's 02. Yeah, 02. That's my birth month. So.
Well, I love it. Well, thank you again so much for being here. I loved listening to you, and I think you had an amazing future ahead. I may be calling you one day, right? I mean, you know, if I open a few more businesses, I may, you know, hey, can you help juggle a couple of these over here with me? I love it. So,
well, thank you very much for having me. This is great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You know who made